class, we're going to continue to work on our perspective project. Fourth, fifth, and sixth grade all have a different kind of perspective project. And looking at it, fourth and sixth grade will continue to work on their perspective project next week as well. So fourth and sixth grade will have 3 weeks for their perspective project, and fifth grade will be finishing. You'll be finishing your project today or with this video, and so next week we'll have a new project for fifth grade. Okay, and as far as turning in your work, you'll turn in your work during your pod time in class. So when you meet for class, there should be a big art folder, and you'll find the art folder and you'll just put your project in that folder. If there's new art supplies, like new paper or something like that, it will be either in the folder, like if I have new paper, it'll be in the folder, like. And if there's some kind of other art supply, like a paint or something like that, it'll probably be in a box. But I don't have anything planned that complicated yet, so don't worry about that. But turn in your work. When you turn in your work, sometimes your pod meets like after you are, like maybe you didn't get the video yet, like maybe you meet on Monday or something like that. I think you meet on Tuesday. But if you miss it, if you're a week behind in turning in your artwork, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Just turn in your work as soon as you can. If you're a week off, don't worry about it. Just turn it in next week. I'm not going to collect them all right away. I might wait an extra week anyways, just because sometimes there's delays and things like that. So don't worry, just finish your project. When you finish it, you'll turn it into that art folder. You can also turn it into the office. I have a folder in the office. It's better to turn in your work in your homeroom, your classroom, during pod time. But if for some reason a parent needs to drop off your artwork to the office, like maybe they're going to the office for some other reason, they can do that. There's a folder there they can turn it into. It's better to turn it into your classroom though. It's just more convenient, but it's up to you. So that'll be it. So yeah. So we're working on art. There'll be a new video every Tuesday. So like I said earlier, fourth and sixth grade will have a third video for perspective next Tuesday. Fifth grade next Tuesday will have a new project, a new art project to work on. Okay. So now it's time for Godzilla of the week. I don't know if you were able to see the results for your class, but I added fourth, fifth, and sixth grade classes together. And so here's the votes. Mechagodzilla received 10 total votes. Burning Godzilla received 27 total votes. Destroya, only 4 votes. And Jet Jaguar was 11 votes. So Burning Godzilla is the winner. So I'm going to show you Burning Godzilla. And he's here. I'll just show him to you. Here he is. Okay, so this is Burning Godzilla. Now you probably are thinking like, is he going to be on fire? No, he's not on fire. But in the movie, notice how he has all these orange parts. What happens is in the Godzilla movies, Godzilla is nuclear powered. He's kind of like a result of nuclear experimentation. And so he's like atomic powered with a lot of energy. And so what's happening in this movie, Godzilla is actually having a nuclear meltdown inside his body. Like he's kind of dying. Like he's kind of burning up. And so the model doesn't glow, but in the movie he's all kind of glowing, and he's like inside he's having a nuclear meltdown, and it's kind of cool. And so that's why he's called Burning Godzilla, because he's having a nuclear meltdown. And it's a scary idea, but it's a pretty cool movie. And in this movie he fights Destroyer. In America it's called Destroyer. I think in Japan it's called Destroya. So it's Godzilla versus Destroyer. You could probably rent it on Amazon if you wanted, but it's pretty cool. The music's really good too. So anyways, this Burning Godzilla, I can close his mouth. Sometimes I glue these in place. I actually based my Godzilla head off this model. So I used this as a reference. So when I made that giant Godzilla head, I used this model. Maybe it looks familiar. I don't know. That's pretty cool. And then here he is in comparison to Space Godzilla. So it's like, rah. So I can have them face off. Sometimes on my shelf, they're face. I can't do this. Sometimes they're facing off against each other, but anyways, that's a Godzilla of the week. So I'll have a new survey that you can vote for. I'll have some different choices in there, and you can vote for the next Godzilla of the week, and I'll show you on next Tuesday. In the meantime, let's get started with our art class. Hi, fifth graders. This is the part of the video where we talk about our project and we keep working on it. We started last week. We started our letters VCS. Now, you just had pencil. I outlined mine in marker just so you could see them better. So you don't have to outline your letters yet. You could do it later, but like I said, I did it now so you can see my letters a little better. Because there's going to be a lot of complicated perspective lines that are going to it's going to be a lot to look at. So anyways, I outlined mine. But later, you'll outline yours later. In fact, later you'll just color them in too. So we'll do like that. That's the finished one. Okay. So now, where do we go? What are we doing? We have our vanishing point still. So our vanishing point's at the center in our page. It's on the center of our horizon line. Here's our horizon line. The horizon line is where the sky touches the ground, right? And then all of our perspective lines are going to go back to that vanishing point. And so let's do that first. Let's draw our perspective lines with pencil, right? And here's how we do it. So from every visible corner, you're going to have a line go all the way back to the vanishing point. Now normally, so like here, for instance, well, here, let's start here. I'll start on this V here. So here's a visible corner of my V. I would position that, and then I would position it on my ruler on that corner, and then on the vanishing point. Now, normally in an art class, or when you're first learning, you draw the line all the way back to the vanishing point. But as long as you line up your ruler on the vanishing point, and on your corner, you don't have to draw your line all the way. Because eventually you're going to have to erase all that line, especially when it's like, it's going to go through my C here. So here's my C. I don't need that line cutting through my C. But remember, you still line up your ruler on that vanishing point. Like, you don't make it up like this. Like, oh, okay, I just draw my line. No, you position it on the vanishing point, and then you draw your line, and you can stop early. You're like, Dave, Mr. Smith, why do you bring that up? Because I have a lot of older students where they would just kind of like, they just draw the line. Like, they don't use the vanishing point. And they're like older. They have no excuse. So anyways, here we go. So I'm going to draw my first. You can just follow along, but I'm going to show you. And then don't forget, you can pause the video. Yeah, I can show you. You can pause it. You can do it. You can kind of see what I'm doing and do it, or rewind it. So it's up to you how you get this. You probably won't be able to keep up because I'll go kind of fast. So you can pause it if you need to. Okay, vanishing point. Vanishing point, corner. I'm going to draw my line, and I'm going to stop. I'm actually just going to stop right about here. Like, I don't need to go that far, right? I'll make my lines a little darker. Your lines should be lighter, but I'm going to make my lines darker so you can see them on the screen, right? Okay, then I'm going to go to this visible corner down at the bottom of the V. I line up my ruler on the vanishing point. Corner, visible corner, vanishing point. I'm going to draw my line. I'm going to stop. I don't go all the way. I'm just going to stop about there. Now, I still have one line here, right? From this visible corner. So here we go, visible corner, vanishing point. I'm just going to stop. Oh, my ruler moved. I think I got it. I just stopped right here because I don't need it to go, this is in front of that line. So, but remember, it's very important that you line up your corner to your vanishing point. Okay, very good. Now, the question is, so here I'm on my C, and I haven't drawn my back edges yet. Right? I haven't drawn those yet. That's okay. Don't worry about that. But here it's like, so now I'm on my C, and it's like, oh, do I see this corner? Do I see that corner? You don't see this corner because that would be behind the C. But you will see this one. right? Okay, so here's now the C is very much centered on the vanishing point. So it's a little more extreme perspective. So, it might look a little weird. It's not that bad. Vanishing point, corner. This is the inner corner of the C. Okay, I probably could have gone a little further. That's okay. Corner, so here I go. This corner, vanishing point. I'm actually going to draw it all the way. I'm not drawing dark enough. I'm so here. There, so you can see it. Okay, then I'm going to have this corner go back to the vanishing point. So let's see. And then this corner back to vanishing point. Now, again, it's like, Mr. Smith, do you see this corner? No. See, watch. You can kind of see that it will go behind the letter. So this line is invisible. Now, if you accidentally drew it, it's okay, but you just want to erase it because you don't need that line. It's behind it. And if you're like, well, are you sure? I can't see it. Just take my word for it. I'm old and I've done this a million times. So far I've got my perspective lines on my V and my C. Now it's time to go to my S. Okay, so don't forget, here's your vanishing point in the middle. Okay, here I go. Visible corner on my S. Back to my vanishing point, and I'm going to draw it. Now I'm not going to draw super far. I'm going to probably stop right about here. Like I don't need it to go this far, but there it is. Okay, I have one here. I'm just going to stop right about there. Remember, you don't need one here because you can kind of see it's like behind the letter. It's like, oh yeah, it's kind of behind. So you don't need one there. If you did it on accident, you can erase it. Now look at this. You're not supposed to do this. And I did it when we drew it. It's okay. It's accurate perspective, but it's going to be kind of weird. This corner is perfectly lined up on my horizon line. So this is my line right here. So this is my line. It just feels weird because it's like perfectly straight. It's like, it's okay. It's just too obvious. Here, let me show you. Here's my original one I did. Here's my original sample. You'll notice that, you're like, I don't care, Mr. Smith. This corner, I purposefully went below the horizon line a little bit. That way it gave me a little bit of an angle. That's normally what you do when you're like, that's the way I'm supposed to teach you as an art teacher. But I kind of forgot when I did it. It was a little easier to draw our S this way. That's why I did it. So whatever, it's a little weird. It's accurate. It's just a little weird distortion. Okay. And then you're not going to see this one either. Because it's like, so it'd be like this. It's like perfectly on that line. So you don't really need to draw one for that. Okay. Now I'm going to go to this corner. Go back to my vanishing point. Okay. And then I'm going to see this one and this one. So let's see here. Shoot. And so I had one here and here. And you can kind of see it looks kind of cool. Like it looks like it's going into perspective. It looks like it's like shooting through into space or whatever. Okay, good. Let's see. Do I need any other lines here? No, we're good to go. But the S is going to be a little tricky. So we'll go back to the S. Okay, so now we need to determine our first back edge, right? We need to know where does this line go, right? Well, here, first, you probably forgot. I don't blame you. It's been a week. But what I taught you is the back edge is parallel to the front edge, meaning they don't cross like that, right? So the front edge, it's at an angle, right? It's at an angle, and I position my ruler on that edge. Then I very carefully move my ruler kind of straight back so that it follows that angle. And the question is, how far back do you want this edge? How far back do you want this letter to go? Well, you'd probably want it about like this, like not too far back. This is like maybe a little further, like this. That's kind of like 1.5 inches, I think. About 1.5 inches. If it's a little less or a little more, it's okay. So it's about like this though, and you can kind of see it. Now, I got to hold my ruler down. And I drew my edge. And you notice that I stopped on this perspective line. So I started here, and then I stopped on this perspective line. Now, if you're a neat freak, you can erase this later, but like you're like, ooh, I don't like all these extra lines. You can erase these extra lines, but I'll show you that later. Like you can erase this part, right? You can erase this part, right? You can erase the extra. There's like extra here. You can erase it. Okay, but it's not. You can do that later, right? For now, you can just kind of see it. You can see the edge. You're like, oh, cool. Now the question is, what about this part? Does it go the same way? Is it like this? No. You want this back edge to be parallel to this line. So it's a little tricky, but it's tricky, but I'm showing you, so it's not that bad. So you want to position your ruler on this line, then you just move it back. Now the question is how far? Usually you use the shape as a reference. You could probably argue that from this corner it would probably connect, and that's kind of true. So that's the way I'm going to do it. I mean, if it was slightly off, it could be okay. I'm going to kind of use that as a reference. But remember, this is parallel to this line. This is the most important part. You should move it back. Let's see. Ugh, gotta draw my line. And there it is. You're like, that's amazing. It is amazing. And then you can erase this, or you can erase this later. I'm not gonna go crazy and erase this now, but it looks pretty neat. And it's proper 1-point perspective, so that's why it looks pretty sweet. Okay. Now we're moving on to the C and the S. And there's some tips that will help us make this look pretty good. And there's certain things that we want to think about to help us make these look good. And there's a lot of different things we can do. I'm going to show you so that you don't have to think too hard about it. But one line will affect your other lines. Because when you place one line, the other lines will connect to them and fall into place. And if you put a line too far out or maybe too close, it may not look as attractive. I mean, it doesn't mean it's not accurate, but it may not look as good. And because the C and the S, this top edge is kind of on the same edge, you kind of want the back edge to be the same on the S and the C. You want it to be kind of the same. Okay, well, whatever. So with all that in mind, I'm gonna do my C and the bottom of my C and my S first. So so first I position my ruler along this edge. It's parallel. Parallel. I'm gonna move it up and it's parallel. And I want to get a good distance back. Now, one thing to keep in mind is if I don't go up enough, I'm not going to have much of an edge on my C. So I do want to go up a little bit. Let's see, I kind of want to go, you want to be able to see a little bit of this angle here from this corner. So, boy, I want to go up a little further. Let's do this. I'm going to go up. So it's a little further. I don't know, what is that? That's like maybe 1.5 to 2 inches distance. You don't have to have the exact measurement, the distance, but you want it to look like this. Your line might be slightly different. Okay, whatever. So I'm drawing this line. So from this perspective line, I'm going to go straight across and I'm going to stop here. There's a lot of lines. From this perspective line, I'm going to go straight across. So I kind of did the back edge for this and the back edge for this at the same time. Why? Because they're on the same level, and it looks good if they match. They don't have to match, but it won't look as good, and you want it to look good. I mean, that's the whole point, right? Is to perspective. Perspective looks cool when you do it right, and so we want to get it just right. Okay, so we did that edge. Now, before we do this top edge, because we drew this line, this vertical line is going to fall into place. And that's what we want to think about. So, I talked about it last week. You probably forgot. That's why I'm going to remind you right now. The front mirrors the back. And so in the front, it goes straight across, and at this corner, it goes straight down. Same with the back. It's going to go straight across, and at this corner, it's going to go straight down. I can't do it. I got to use my ruler. Straight down, just like this edge. the back mirrors the front. So I'm going to draw that line. So another way to think about it is you could put your ruler right on this corner and you can move it until it kind of intersects or touches this horizontal line. So right there, and then it's just going to go straight down. You're like, that's amazing. I know it is amazing. Hopefully it's fun. Hopefully it's fun when it looks good. Now, I don't need that line here because you can kind of see, oh, it's like behind that. It would be behind that. Yeah, so I don't need to draw it here. But I did need to draw it here. Why? Because it's moving away from perspective and you can see this side. Okay, piece of cake. Now, another line is going to fall into place from this line. It's going to go straight up, just like this line goes straight up. So you can kind of see it goes up, over, and up again. And same with our back edge. It's going to go up, over, and then at this point, it's going to go straight up again to mirror this line. So we're just going to draw it now while we're at it. So let's see, I got this line here. The edge, I move it back until it touches here. And then my line goes straight up. And that's it. You notice that this line goes behind this part of the S. And that's actually good. You want that to happen. Because if it was closer, it would, well, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But let's say your straight line went up here. When it touched here, it would go straight across. Kind of like this top part, it would go straight across. But because this is behind that, it's easier. I don't know. That's good enough for now. Okay. Now the question is, how do I figure out where this line goes, right? Well, some of you guys are pretty smart. You probably figured it out. Now, you have to kind of use intuitive thinking. Intuitive thinking is when you use clues and information kind of around you or at hand, and then you figure it out like a puzzle. Well, hopefully you might have already figured this out because I'm talking so long and you're like, oh yeah, I already figured it out, Mr. Smith. You've probably noticed that this edge, maybe not, but this is what I teach my older students. This edge kind of connects with this side or this edge connects with this edge. And so what that means is because the back mirrors the front, if I position my ruler on this back edge, that's where the back of this part's going to be. And that's true. So watch. So you have here, then you move this out to this line, this vertical line that we used, and that's going to be used for this part. And that's pretty awesome. And there it is. That's it. And then you could erase these things. I'm not going to totally erase these yet. We'll talk about that later. We're probably running out of time. I think we have time. I have to talk about that real quickly. Okay. And then you could erase these things. Pretty good. Now this thing. So first, we want to draw this line first. Where this line connects up here, that's where it's going to go across. So we want to draw this line up first. But it's a little tricky. I'm going to try to move my ruler over here. So the first thing we want to do is position our ruler on this edge, on the C. Then we're going to move it to the side until we connect, right here. See this, where this line touches here? That's what's going to go straight up. How do I know? Because you can see in the front edge, this goes straight across, and when it touches here, it goes straight up. Same in the back. Here's the back edge. It goes straight across, and when it touches here, it's going to go straight up. So that's it. So right here. Now, make sure this line is parallel. Don't go like this or like this. That won't be good. So parallel. And you can kind of see, parallel means your lines aren't going to cross. This line matches the angle of the other line. The problem is I got my tripod there. Okay, I got to hold my ruler from this corner. I'm going to go straight up. Now, I'm going to stop. My hand's in the way. There's a perspective line here, and you'll probably see yours. It's going to stop right where they touch. Here you can see it. So this, let me draw this darker. It's so hard to see. There. So this vertical line stopped right at this diagonal perspective line right there. Right there. And that tells us where this line's going to go across, right? so again, so like the front mirrors the back. So right here, so let's see, I got this line and then it goes straight across. Here's my back edge, it goes here, and then right here it goes across. So at that corner, the corner of this diagonal perspective line, so right there, it's going to go straight across to match this. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to do it. Okay, there it is. We have a little bit of time, so we can finish this today in 2 weeks. So there's a couple extra art supplies that you're going to need or find around the house. We want to color this thing, and we want to outline it. So you're going to want to outline you haven't outlined your VCS yet. It works best with a marker, like a Sharpie. So let's see. This is a regular Sharpie. It's called a fine point Sharpie, but it's just it's a Sharpie. You probably have one of these around the house. This will work the best. If you don't have a Sharpie, you can use, because I'm not really going to send one of these home, because hopefully, if you don't have a Sharpie at your house, these are so useful, you could totally use one. Say, hey, mom or dad, can you get me a Sharpie? And they're like, no. You're like, oh. Like, but we should probably have one around the house. Mr. Smith said you should probably have one around the house. Most people have these things lying around the house. If you don't have a Sharpie, you can use a black marker. Like if you have Crayola markers, that's what I'm going to recommend we use it to color. You can use a Crayola marker. I don't know if they work as well. Let's find out. Let me try it. It probably works okay. Yeah, looks good. So Crayola marker looks good. Maybe you have there's thinner Crayola markers. If you have any kind of marker, it works fine. Black, of course, right? So any kind of black marker so you want to trace around like this. You want to trace around your VCS, right? Then you want to color it in. Oh, by the way, if for some reason you don't have a marker and your parents are like, I'm not going to buy you a Sharpie, you're like, aw, then you can just use your pencil and then just make your line real dark around your letters. But that's kind of a lot of hard work. It's easier just to use a marker. So a marker, and just be careful when you do it. Also, if you use a Sharpie, make sure you have a piece of paper underneath it so that you don't get Sharpie on your parents' table, because, oh boy, will they be mad at you. And hopefully they won't be mad at me because I'm reminding you. But put paper underneath so you don't get Sharpie on the table, because that would be bad. So we're going to trace around this thing. I already did it a little bit, but you would go around and you would trace carefully around your letters, around the whole three-dimensional letter. I'm not going to do all of it. I'm going to do, you know what to do, right? And then I would do this as best you can, and that looks pretty good. And then I would do on the C here and be real careful on that thin line, right? Kind of like here it is, it's finished. All right, great. Then what you need to do is you obviously want to erase all your lines in the middle. So you could, and you may not have an eraser like this, but you want to get a good eraser. You could use any eraser. Here's just this is like a disposable mechanical pencil. And you may have these around the house. It has a nice, it's kind of like a white eraser that works pretty good. Probably the least workable erasers are these pink ones. But if it can work, it's not like they don't work. What I recommend is if you have an old pink eraser, find a scrap piece of paper and kind of erase some of the gunk off the eraser first before you go to your art page, right? Anyways, this doesn't work very good. Maybe you have a big pink eraser. That'll work better. These work best. You can buy these anywhere. I think you can get these anywhere. These are the best. What is this, Pentel? We have them at school, but I'm not going to send them home because you probably have an eraser of some kind at school. Anyways, you're going to erase all these lines, and you can erase these lines. Let me show you a trick on when you erase, though. Hold your paper. Don't just go like this, because you might crinkle your paper. What you want to do is you can kind of hold it down, then erase, and that way you're less likely to crinkle your paper. It's a total bummer when you crinkle your paper. Now, do me a favor. You can erase, let's see, try to leave your horizon line. I started to erase my horizon line a little bit, but you can erase this other stuff that we don't need. If you erase your horizon line a little bit like I did, it's okay, but try to keep it here just because I want to see that you have your horizon line. And there's your vanishing point. I want to see it. You're like, well, I don't like it. That's too bad. It's cool. And that way you can kind of see it and you can remember. But you could erase, I didn't, on this one I didn't erase. You can erase the outer edge. You can erase that stuff if you want. Okay, anyways, I'm not going to erase all this because you get the idea. You want to trace around with a Sharpie and you want to erase your extra lines as neatly as carefully and try not to rip or tear or crinkle your paper. Okay, great. Now, how do I color this thing in? Well, let's talk about it. I recommend you get a scratch paper just to test your markers because your markers may be out of ink. And if they're out of ink, I have 2 of these in case this is out of ink. Okay, here we go. Let's test it. So I got red and yellow. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty good. So that's great. Let's see this yellow. Yeah, these are new, so I'm good to go. You can get these at Target. You can get these anywhere, right? Maybe you have a brother or sister that has markers, or maybe you have markers. Maybe you have better ones. I highly recommend that you use red and yellow. Actually, technically, maroon would be better than red, but we don't really, red is more common to use. But you don't have to use red and yellow. If you can, use red and yellow, or if you have like a darker maroon, that'd be better. Those are like our valley colors, right? But if you don't have very good red and yellow, you can pick 2 other colors. You have to have 2 colors. Don't do more than 2 colors. We're going to have a shadow color, or like the inside letter, and then the front of the letter. So 2 colors. So let's say you don't have a yellow. Well, then maybe you want to use blue, or you can use like blue and like a light blue and a purple, or a purple and a green, or a yellow and a green. I don't care. But red and yellow is recommended, or better yet, a maroon, but whatever. Now, when you use these, can you see it? Let's see. Woo! These markers have a chisel, right? The chisel. And when you color on the side of the chisel, it'll be easier to fill in faster. So let me show you. So normally you can go like this, and it's like a thin, that's the tip. The chisel is the side, and if I go on the side, I can get like a broad stroke, and that way it won't take forever to color your letters, right? Don't you want to like color this thing faster? You do. But make sure you color it neatly, okay? So what are some tips on coloring? Like, Mr. Smith, I'm in 5th grade, I know how to color. I know you do, but just humor me, right? Because I want this to be as neat as possible, because we're only coloring 2 colors, right? Here's what I recommend. If you're careful, you don't have to edge, but I usually edge, and here's what I do. I kind of go on the edge first. I very carefully edge my letter. Now, I might go a little faster than what you might go because I'm running out of time to talk about this, but I edge first. And you want to be careful. If you try not to mess up. If you mess up, don't sweat it. Don't start over or anything. Just. So I'm going on the edge very carefully. There. Edging. There's a lot of different. Here, I'm going to do this one real quick too. But be careful because sometimes when you do the chisel and it's away from you, it's easy to go outside the line. I'm going kind of fast, so. But just be careful. You can like turn your paper. Like you can turn your paper to like edge. That's totally legit. Turning your paper to get the right edge. In fact, in Photoshop, the computer, they have it where you can turn your paper, which is kind of funny. But sometimes it does. It's funny but it's useful. It's funny and useful. Okay. Oh, now I want to fill in. So when I fill in, I just use the chisel side. So here I go. I'm going to just go chisel. And you can kind of just use broad brush strokes. And it helps to go in the same direction. Like, don't scribble it all in, right? Like, make it nice chiseled lines. And this doesn't take very long to do if you use that chisel side. And so it's kind of nice and neat. You can kind of go back and forth. Look, my marker's already running out of ink. It's because the air is hitting that tip and it's I don't know, it's kind of drying it up. So usually so that's good. Usually what happens is when you do a letter, your pen tip, it kind of dries out a little bit. Well, cap it, wait a little bit, and then, I don't know, a couple minutes, maybe do a different color, maybe do yellow while you're waiting, but cap it, don't leave it uncapped. And then it'll be kind of fresher again. You'll be able to, it'll be able to have ink come out. Okay, I'm gonna quickly do this. I'm gonna do yellow. Oh my gosh, how much time do I got? I got 1 minute. Here we go. I got extra time. So I'm gonna chisel. I'm chisel and I'm edging. Here I'm flipping my paper because it's gonna help me do it faster. You don't do it as fast as me. I'm just take your time and do neatly. I'm just doing it fast because I don't want to bore you with me filling in this letter for 10 minutes. But see how nice turning your paper around is? People do it all the time. They, like I said, they even do it in the computer. It's hilarious when they do it in the computer. Okay, so I chiseled around the edge, and then again, I'm just going to use broad, chiseled strokes that go in the same kind of direction. So these all kind of went this way. Now, obviously, this isn't the same direction, but it's the same direction for this part of the letter. So you get it. So that's it. That's beautiful. The reason why this works so well is because these were new. The problem with using markers is they run out of ink. And unless they're brand new, it's hard to get it to work like this. Maybe you have a brand new set. Great. But try your best. Let it dry. Here you can kind of see I was running out. Let's see. I was kind of running out of ink. But this was a pretty new. Here you can see I was running out. And the yellow, it's hard to see, but the yellow on I had different markers. The yellow was running out. Try your best to make it as neat as possible. If you have colored pencils, you can use colored pencils. If you let's see, are these sharp? That's marker. Colored pencils are going to take forever, though. So I don't know what to tell you. If you like, the nice thing about colored pencils, though, is that they don't run out. So here's a colored pencil. The problem is it's going to take forever, but it does look kind of nice. But just let me quickly show you for colored pencil. You still want to edge. Oh, boy. You want to edge. I recommend it. Then, and you want to go in the same direction still. And you don't want to go like this, right? You want to have your lines close together. Now, if you go on the side of your, if you go on the side of your colored pencil, it gets like a chiseled edge. And it makes it, like when you first start, it's real thin like that. You can't even see it. It'll be real thin and it won't look very good. But if you go on the side, your pencil will get kind of, it'll get its own chisel, and it'll be a little easier to do. But you want it to be filled in neatly, and see, it's getting its own chisel. It's getting kind of flatter on that side, and it can give me a broader stroke. So you want it to be filled in solid and neat. And you probably remember from last year how I was big on that. When you color, you want it to be as solid and neat as possible. And that looks pretty good. That's neat. You can even do a little bit of shading if you want. You can get like a little darker color. You don't have to, but if you wanted, since you got awesome color. Let me see what I got there. I got black in here. Like, Mr. Smith, you're talking too long. I know. But you could have some fun. You could be like, I can put a little bit. You won't be able to see this on the. And you do it lightly. And you can do a little bit of shading. I don't care. If you do shading, it'll be darker up front and just a little bit, kind of like that. Like, don't do it all the way. Don't do it back here. When things go into the distance, they actually get lighter. So they're actually a little darker up close, if you can believe that. So a little bit of a shadow here, and then it kind of goes away. Like if I was going to do a shadow here, like say I did this red, like this is all red, and then on top of it I'm going to go a little bit of black. It would probably be, and then it would kind of fade like that. But you don't have to do that. Just solid colors is good. If you want to do a little extra, that's fine. If you don't have colored pencils, I don't know, crayons Crayons are the same thing, but they don't look as good as colored pencils. So if you have markers, markers are priority. Markers first. Good markers. If you don't have good markers, any marker, any decent marker. If you don't have any decent marker, colored pencils. If you don't have colored pencils or good colored pencils, crayons. And I hope to goodness you have crayons at home. So you can do crayons, but like I said, markers are way better. So do markers first. And just say, hey mom, can I get some markers? Like if you don't have any markers, like I said, these are usually pretty cheap. You can get them at Target, or these are pretty good. Like a new set will probably work, because by the time you're doing like the red and yellow, like these will be, you'll run out. Not run out, but it'll be low. That's it. Now when you're done, so here it is. Here's done. You want to erase the extra lines. When you're all finished, make sure your name is on the back. Don't make your name too big. So it'd be like, you know, here's my name, right? And then you're going to go, whatever class you're in. If you're in Mrs. Johnson's class, you can put a J and circle it. Mrs. Johnson or Verveldi, put a V, circle it. That helps me. You don't have to do that part, but at least put your name. Don't make your name super big. Just about this. Don't make it too tiny in the corner. I can't read it. About this size so I can read it. Then, when you're finished with this project, turn it into your classroom. In your classroom, you'll have a big art folder, and you'll just put it in there. And then if there's new art supplies for next week, they'll be in there. So I believe I'll probably just have some paper. I'm not going to send home all kinds of weird art supplies yet. There will probably be some new kind of paper. And it'll either be, I'm still deciding exactly what we're going to do. So it's going to be construction paper probably. So you're going to get some construction paper, more than likely. And kind of like this, but maybe a different color. And it'll be in there. So when you turn in your homework in that big art folder, there might be some paper or art supplies for you to pick up. And I'll also have that stuff in the office. So let's imagine you are a remote only student and you're like, but and you turn this in during pod time. So like you go to your class for pod time, and if you're finished with your art, when you go to pod time, you go to the art folder, you put your paper in there, and then you look to see if there's any new art supplies, like new paper in that folder. If not, don't worry about it. But if there is new paper, you take the new paper for home, right? And you put this in that art folder when you're at school for pod time in your classroom. Now, let's say you don't go to school, and let's say you're a remote only student. Then you can just, there's a folder in the office that you can turn this into. So I think the office, Karen, she is so busy that it's better to turn this into your teacher. But there is an art folder for you to turn this into in the office. So if your parent wants to just turn this in for you, great. In the office, awesome. Maybe your parent or maybe you are picking up different stuff at school, like some kind of drop-off, that's fine. Technically, this is due next week. So you want to have it finished as soon as you can, but sometimes your pod time is like after, I don't know, after the day I post the video, so don't worry about it, but you want to finish it as soon as possible, and then the next week turn it in. And if for some reason you can't turn it in the week right after, maybe you couldn't get the art supplies right away, maybe there's some other problem, that's fine, just turn it in the week after. So just don't not do it. You want to finish it, turn it in, and you're good to go.